It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting through my website, emailrevealer.com. Okay, now, the other day, I got a glimpse of this documentary film. It's by this excellent documentary filmmaker named Billy Mintz, and that's BILLIEMINTZ.com. And it's called The Guardians, and it involves Clark County Family Court here in Nevada. Fascinating stuff. It's an enjoyable film to begin with. You can get it on Amazon Prime. If you're a member of Amazon Prime, you can go in there right now for free and watch it. But it's a fascinating, enjoyable film to watch. But it's about an extremely important, terrifying topic. Billy Mintz, are you there?
Here I am, Ed. Thanks for talking with me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Tell us about yourself. Who is Billy Mintz?
Who is Billy Mintz? Oh, that sounds like a therapy session.
There you go.
Who's Billy Mintz? Well, one layer is I am a journalist and a documentary filmmaker. And I'm very interested in, things that you would need a private investigator for. I'm kind of like a hack and private investigator. And I find issues that are in the public that are not necessarily yet being handled by law enforcement. So I seek out victims of mass conspiracy that are, trying to tell people that they need help and that have gone unanswered. And I usually like to look into cases like that and try to explain it in a way that, a mass of people can understand it, because they're usually extremely complicated and convoluted cases.
Yeah, I got to tell you this, man. You can never call yourself a hack investigator, because I watched your work. Okay. And we're going to get to this later on, too, because I think you did a better job investigating this case and presenting it better than the Clark County district attorney did. All right.
Well, I appreciate that. And I will say that, it takes a team of people to do a film. And I was very blessed with some extremely caring people, as well as help from a lot of the advocates and victims of this crime. So I get the glory because I'm the one on camera, but it was definitely a effort done by many.
Okay. Now, how did this situation come to your attention?
That's a little bit of a longer story, but I'll try to keep the simple of it. Is I was looking for my next project, and I ended up in Serbia, of all places, where I was brought to the attention of a gentleman who actually lives in the south of France, so it's quite geographical, who was his parents were the victims of guardianship abuse. He had an $11 million estate stolen from right from under him in what was called a guardianship scheme, which I knew nothing about. And that was happening in New York. So I followed that story to New York, and then I ended up finding a lot of victims that were also victim to such a scheme. And that led me to Las Vegas, where it seemed to be the center of guardianship abuse in the United States.
Okay. Now, describe what is the guardianship scheme.
Well, I mean, just to describe it, you kind of need my film was 104 minutes, which is much longer than your average feature film. So there's a lot to describe on what the scheme is, but it's basically the, legal, quote unquote, kidnapping of elderly people orchestrated through family courts in the United States of America. So basically you have a cabal of lawyers, judges, healthcare professionals that are all, working in a criminal organization together in order to bilk the estates of elderly people by fake diagnosis of dementia, with which leads to, giving temporary guardianship for guardians who are in profit of taking guardianship over elderly people that don't need guardianship. And then they steal their estates after putting them into nursing homes and separating them from their families. in a nutshell.
Yeah, separating them from their families and their money.
That they rob their estates.
Absolutely. Now, this guardianship program, this applies just to people with money, because I know plenty of people. I've tried to get help for people on the street that definitely need supervision and guardianship. How come they don't get any help, but these people with the money do get the help? Well, not the help.
Well,
but,
no, I mean, it's a leading question, but you're absolutely right. They do only go after people, not necessarily just with money. If you have an estate, even a house is enough to do it. And some people that get caught up in the system that don't have the money, but you still have, a lot of people making money off of that, including the lawyers that circle around this scheme. So it's a system with which needs people. It's sort of like the prison system, in order to operate. This thing has been operated for so long that they need people, and it's cash for seniors. So any senior citizen that gets fed into the system helps keep the system alive. And, a lot of these people are making, lots and lots of money off of this.
Yeah. And I'm sure you kind of blurred out the names of the doctors and the therapists that are signing off on this, but I'm sure I would recognize some of their names, because the same thing has gone on here in Clark County, in the child custody cases in family court. And also, too, we had a big scandal here, too, with the juvenile court system, where they were being placed into these therapy sessions with these psychiatrists and doctors. And then it was up to the doctors to continue these kids in therapy until they were graduated they aged out of the system. So I'm sure we would recognize a lot of the names that weren't blurred out.
Yeah, in order to publish such documents like this, you need to protect yourself from getting sued. So what you need, what's called errors and omission insurance. It's insurance.
Sure. And
they are extremely scrupulous on what you are allowed to publish or not. So you almost go to war with them on what is backed up, what's not backed up. And it just came to the fact that it wasn't worth the risk of the insurance company to publish some of these names, because we were the ones that were breaking the story. So they didn't want to take the weight of the risk. So that's why you have blurred out. But yes, to answer what you're saying, any sort of system that is financially incentivized is going to have a immoral group of people circling around that in order to benefit from it. And, there is no shortage of immoral people in the world, especially in some of these industries.
Yeah, and it's a little bit worse. You mentioned that it's almost like the jail system, the prison system, but it's a little bit worse, because if I'm looking for a missing person, somebody comes to me and says, hey, we can't find our long lost relative or friend or family member. I can look from one of the places I look right away is the jails. But if they're in a mental institution, I have no way of knowing they're in there, and there's no way I can find out. Now, when I saw your research you were doing there, these people in this guardianship system, can you look that up on the family court website?
You can look up whether they were in guardianship or not, but you can't look up where they went, because then you're dealing with, a very veiled industry of the health industry. Right. And so they're extremely protected, and you can do a lot of things based on, with the cloak of anonymity and protection to these people's privacy. So that's why this is a perfect crime for these people.
Right. And I noticed, too, in the documentary, you approached Desert Springs Hospital what was it?
I can't say because we had to blur out the name.
Oh, really? So, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, that's okay. You can keep that in. You can say whatever you want. Yeah.
That's actually one of the nicer ones. I don't know if you saw Stein Hospital over on Charleston there, which is a building with bars on the windows and then a cage around the building. Did you see that building?
Yeah, I've heard nightmares from all these places. There's the psych ward that a lot of these elderly people get sent to. And by the time they come out of the psych ward, they don't even actually remember anything, or that even their things are missing. So a lot of the times when the patterns that I have been told is that, they'll be in the nursing home being drugged while their stuff is being robbed. They'll keep asking about their stuff, and they'll keep complaining that they want to get out. Then they get put in the psych ward, and, then something changes with them.
Yeah.
So what they're doing in the psych ward is unknown to anybody.
Absolutely. And even if you get in there for a visit, it's a horrific situation. If you can get past and get in there and get a visit to these patients. Because I just went through a whole year-long thing with this kind of situation. Now, it's odd, too, that here in Vegas, we have so many obviously mentally ill people living in the street, living in sewers, in drainage sewage, and we have no placement for them, but these wealthy people can be put into state hospitals.
Yeah, I mean, they're also put into, private hospitals, and their money is being used in order to put them in there, and they are completely capable to take care of themselves. These are not, people who need help. They are completely capable human beings like you and I,
Right.
who have been given a false sentence of dementia and then drugged and put in, like, incarcerated against their will.
Yeah, which makes it even more frightening. And the film has this terrifying tone throughout the whole film. You're at the edge of your seat because it could happen to anyone. It could happen to you, could happen to me, could happen to our parents. It seems to me, too, that it's rife for abuse because if you have a lonely, elderly person that doesn't get out of their house much, that the only person they go visit is their physician. And there's many of those people out there. And they're telling their physician, well, I don't get to see anybody. You're the only one I see. Then this doctor can see this and say, hey, this person's ripe for the pickings. Is that the kind of thing that's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put fear in people to go visit their doctors, etc. But you need to be very careful of your privacy and what you tell people. I had a person tell me that when they were put in the hospital for a minute just to go get a checkup, there was financial information that was being asked for on this form that they had to fill out. But there's no need for a hospital to know what your financial situation is. So, trust a doctor, obviously, with your health issues, et cetera, but there's no need to, or reason, especially in today's climate, to let your doctor, especially if you don't know them, know about your financial situation. Because what we found is that a lot of this starts when somebody is admitted into a hospital, whether it be like they get in an accident or they go in for a checkup. All of a sudden they find themselves targets in this guardianship system.
Right, like an elderly person will slip, they'll fall down, and then they got to be taken to the hospital. And then they got pointers in there, right, to find people who have money to go after them. And I think,
yeah, that's exactly what they do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think people here in Clark County, because this is where the film is focused on Clark County Family Court at 900 Pecos, guys. This is what we're talking about here. Okay. 900 North Pecos. This is what the location we're talking about. And anybody who's been through that family court system knows the corruption that goes on in that building. And they've seen it with their own custody cases, their own divorce cases, where the attorneys and the judges, they see who has the money and they drag it out till they drain you dry. But this is an unknown terror going on in our community here, where they're targeting our elderly.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's really heartbreaking when you see this, and when you watch the film, this is not just speculative. We have footage straight from family court showing these individuals and the way they operate. I mean, it makes a pretty solid case that there's rampant corruption and abuse happening in that building.
Yeah. Now, Billy Mitz, is this a situation where it's just a couple of bad apples doing this, or what?
If I had the answer to that question, I'd be a lot further ahead in something like this. Guardianship itself is obviously a necessary need in our society. We need to take, just like we need to take care of children when they can't take care of themselves. We do need to take care of some elderly people who aren't, when they become incapable of doing that themselves. So guardianship is heavily needed. It's just we're new at this. We're new at this society thing. We're new as human beings trying to figure out what are the ills of our society, and we often don't know they are ills in our society until people start being affected by them. So I think we're just in a new time right now. This has probably been going on for a long time, but there's a lot more of us now. and there's a lot more aging now. So it's becoming way more transparent because it's happening to everybody. They used to be able to do this when they would just take elderly people who didn't have children, but now with the baby boomers, they mostly all have children. So they're still doing it. They're way more powerful than they used to be. But now the children are starting to call foul play, but the people they are calling foul play to are all involved. So it's only just starting to get out to the media now. It's getting out to people like myself and now like yourself. And we're starting to spread the word of this cancer in our society that has been happening under our noses all the time to countless people that have never been able to report about it.
Now, in your film, you talk about how the people that run this area, this guardianship area of family court, are the same people who created it. They appointed the people that are in there now, and they've designed the system for their own benefit.
Yeah, it's an echo chamber, the whole thing. And if you find in every state, because I get probably about 10 emails a week from people who have seen the film who are saying that it's happening to them as well. And we're talking like almost every state it covers, especially the states where there is two-party consent rules, which means you cannot record somebody's phone call without them knowing about it, without all parties knowing about it. There's only about 7 states in the United States that you need consent from all parties. Those states have rampant guardianship abuse because you can't catch them. And so, and it's such a well-oiled system that is worth billions of dollars, that, it goes from the top down. And you have a lot of the times, it goes all the way up to the Attorney General's office.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, well, here, again, the same people involved in this kind of activity in the family court system are then appointed to the Psychological Board of Examiners. They're policing the same people that are doing this. So it's a closed system. Now, when these people come into... I'm sorry.
Well, what happens is when a guardian gets temporary guardianship over a person that they have not even met, they have a warrant and they already have possession of everything that this person has. So by the time this person comes knocking at your door with this paper saying, I have temporary guardianship over you, it's already too late. And on this order is the ability to call the police to help them. So if the person, somebody shows up at your door and you don't want to go with this person who is an appointed person from family court, and you don't want to go because you're completely fine and they want you to come with you, and they give you 3 choices, whether to go to jail or go to a psych ward or just come with them, they can get the police who will have to help them whether they're on it or not.
Yeah, I was watching that, and then there's another element to that too, where sometimes they would predate they would have the mail forwarded before they served them, so that people didn't even get the certification in the mail because they had already had their mail forwarded to the other, or the address change done in the mail.
Yeah, that is the one. That's the smoking gun.
Yeah,
the fact that you're committing fraud, and you need due process in order to, when you have a hearing over somebody's guardian, you have to let them know that
and if they don't get their mail, then they have no idea that these people are showing up.
Yeah, well, as you were saying, due process is basically. Sorry, am I going on? I feel a real echo.
No, go ahead.
Do you want to just cut that out?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so when somebody is being brought up for guardianship in the court system, there has to be due process. They have to let the court system and the lawyers have to let that person know that you are being considered for guardianship over your person and estate. What is happening is that person is not getting that mail. So there are incidences where they are changing the mail so it doesn't come to them. But then that is, obviously that's mail fraud. And that's the smoking gun that if law enforcement was looking into this, and I say a big if because this has been going on for decades, and there's still, even after my film, there's still very little being done about it. That's where they would look, is how come all of these people who get put under guardianship never knew that there was even a hearing, which is unconstitutional, which makes it federal, that the human rights are being, overlooked. But again, you can't get federal looking into this because it's happening within the state. So it's really up to the Attorney General's office to investigate. But from what I have found, that investigations from the Attorney General's office are either superficial or being completely avoided, which makes you question how far up does this go and who's involved.
Yeah, because the same people appointing, it's the same people appointing these positions. But let me ask you this, though, because from watching your film, I caught that right away, that if they come with this order to your front door, then they're going to threaten you, okay, either we're going to take you to jail or we're going to take you to this hospital. And a lot of people might think, well, if I go to this hospital, it'd be nicer than going to this jail. But now my thinking is, having done a lot of criminal defense work, is go to jail, because then at least you'll appear before a judge in a couple of days. And that judge in front of you has to declare that a competency evaluation, which would be done at the jail. But then I've sat through those competency court too. And the judge is pretty cool there, in criminal court. What's your experience with that?
Well, that's actually an amazing point, because what happens is that once you're brought into family court, right, that has its own system, and it's not, and what it looks like is that it's this completely like kangaroo court that is not being, there's no accountability in these court systems. And you have that down the range from adult guardianship to child guardianship. And, you have these judges that don't have any accountability. But with if you were to get arrested, which everybody's afraid to, at least you're being seen by a different court system. And that's actually a really good point. And I've actually not heard anybody bring that up until now. So good on you, Ed. I think you solved the guardianship issue. We should put it out on the wires that anybody who is being threatened with guardianship should take the C option, which is go to jail.
Yeah, it would seem that way, because then also too, you have a court-appointed attorney who's there advocating for you. Now the public defender is going to advocate for you. And anybody who's been through the family court system knows, like he says, it's loosey-goosey down there, and it's there's really no the appeals process is a joke. You go back to the same people that are friends with these guys.
You bring up something really interesting, Ed, is the fact, and that's what I've been trying to advocate for, is that right now you have an issue which is going to affect all of us, which is affecting a large amount of people. But until it affects you, you don't really care about it. So that makes the stakeholders of this issue very small. The only people who are trying to find solutions to this are people who have been affected by it, and they are traumatized people, and they are victims of a heinous crime which is even worse because it's a conspiracy. So it's made to gaslight you, to make you think you're crazy, and nobody thinks anything like this could actually happen in the United States of America. So there's very few opportunity for people like you and me who are just thinkers and who care. We are not in law enforcement. We are just people who care about issues like this. And then we start thinking about it, but it's very rare for people like us to be involved in such an issue. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to break out of the victim advocacy community economy of people who've been affected by guardianship, and try to bring this to other thinkers. Like, for instance, the most organized people out there are climate change people, and they are extremely effective on organizing people and coming up with solutions around climate change. If we could take people like that, advocates of other issues, to look at the guardianship issue and say, like, how do we get out of this mess before it becomes too late? Because right now, these are unfettered people who are completely having a field day at vulnerable people.
Now, and while you mentioned it, in the film, you mentioned that some of these judges in charge of this area, a family court, were formerly the attorney for Rick Rizzolo?
Yeah, that was one thing that one of the subjects of the film had brought up, that he just shows. It was just basically showing that, that this is a very small group of people that have, interesting ties.
Yeah, Rick Rizzolo owned a strip club here for many, many, many years, where you'd go in there, you'd get overcharged, you'd complain about your credit card bill, they'd beat the crap out of you, throw you out in the parking lot, then you'd get arrested. Okay, that's Rick Rizzolo. Then he got arrested for corruption, for paying off bribing politicians. You don't go bribing politicians without help from, you need other politicians helping you to do that. You don't just walk in and start doing that. And these are the guys running, taking care of our elderly. This is who we have.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you just explained about what Rick did to people at his strip club is pretty much what happens to people if you are elderly living in Las Vegas or any other part of the United States that has rampant guardianship abuse. They pretty much just kick the nuts out of you.
You know what? That's heartbreaking because when you say it that way, in the old days here in Vegas, back when I used to come visit here back in the 80s, they used to have these, what do you call them, shakedown joints. You know, you'd go into these strip clubs and it says they were totally nude. You couldn't buy any alcohol in there. And then they'd start overcharging you. And then they'd beat you up and throw you out in the street, you know, clip joints, they called them. And that was the old way they made money here, but it was too in your face. And now they've got a court building, the politicians, they've got doctors, they've got lawyers, and they've got judges, all doing the same exact thing. Nothing's changed in this town, man. Billy Mintz, I'm going to take a little commercial break. You can check him out at BillyMintz.com, BillyMintz.com. This film is called The Guardians, and you can get it for free on Amazon Prime. Maybe you have to pay a couple of bucks if you don't have Prime. But it's an enjoyable film. It's entertaining, I guess you can call it, you know. It's educational. It's a terrifying film. It's going to stick with you after you watch it. And maybe after enough people watch it, we can all get together and do something about it. You said before that all these people, about 10 people a week, are coming to you saying, hey, Mr. Mintz, help us out. Now, what are you doing? Where are you referring ththese people to?
Well, I'm just sort of compiling stories right now. I want to revisit this topic with, the next steps based on my film started with Las Vegas. And, one of the major complaints that came back from the film was that, the idea that it only takes place in Las Vegas, but it's actually rampant all throughout the United States and globally in different countries as well. I get the film has sold all over the world. So I get emails from people all over the world. So I think the next step is to do a further investigation and broaden both the geography and the techniques of investigation into how to further expose and solve this type of scheme.
And how long has the film been out?
The film has been out since it's probably been a year and a couple months.
Okay. Yeah, I just heard about it, man. I tell you, you would think it would be. Well, I guess it's on Amazon now, so it should get some big attention now because it's a great film. Now, well,
interestingly enough, it has gotten a lot of attention around the world, but there was no home for it in United States. No broadcaster would pick it up. And as well, interestingly enough, you would think with such a large advocacy group from the victims of guardianship abuse who are, trying to put an end to guardianship abuse, here they have a film in order to, try to let as many people know. But there's only 25 comments on the Amazon film. And so you have a real problem with people that don't have the ability to organize themselves. And that's, the old adage is why people are victim to such large conspiracies is that the bad guys are organized and the good guys don't have the ability to organize themselves.
Yeah, the bad guys are heavily funded with the victims' money. I would encourage people to go to Amazon, first watch this film and go to Amazon Prime and leave some comments on there because no one could leave a negative comment. It's a great film. Now, and I hope, too, you can put me in touch with some of the people that were in the film and we'll do follow-up shows on this because I think it's a...
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, definitely, man. Come on. Now, also, too, it would seem to me, okay, that all these victims would have to do, once they're declared incompetent, they got a big estate, $500,000 estate, right? That all they would have to do is get a good attorney and get a doctor to declare they're not incompetent. Is it that simple or what?
Yeah, you would think so. But the problem is that what attorney are you going to get that is not already involved in the scheme in some way or another. When you have attorneys that, in especially Clark County, that have experience with family court, chances are they're on both sides of this. And unfortunately, money is the ultimate compromise. So it's really hard to find an attorney who is not involved in it some way. And that's just a very sad state of affairs. And, somebody can, argue with me about that, but you show me one attorney in Clark County who is actually speaking out against rampant abuse. Why did it take, a journalist and a filmmaker in order to try to bring people's attention to it? Where are the non-crooked attorneys? And so my assumption is that all attorneys around family court are crooked in some way. And prove me wrong, because why aren't you speaking out against it? Now, that might be naive from my side, because obviously it's very hard to go against other attorneys in that industry. The bar makes it very hard for an attorney to make a complaint against another attorney. And, it could be probably dangerous, but, why is myself and, Darcy Spears, Channel 13, why are we the only people taking that risk? Where are the attorneys? Where are the people that are there to stand up for the rights of Americans? And so, I would love to be proven wrong, but unfortunately, the people that you're going to go to for help around family court, especially in such a compromised system, that, chances are that they're all in on it.
No, yeah,
there are way better people in Vegas that are actually in the film who could speak to that, and I will love to set you up.
Yeah, definitely. I could not prove you wrong unless we were in one of those judges in front of family court over here in Nevada, and they would rule in my favor, because I've seen these guys joking around about kickbacks and stuff. I've seen it, man. It's totally corrupt in this town, and they've written some articles about it out of state. There's a big series of articles in San Diego a few years back, about 10 years ago, about how corrupt the Las Vegas family court system was, but nothing here locally. And even here locally right now, we have a case against the Las Vegas Metro Police Department for a wrongful death in custody. And we had to find a Beverly Hills attorney to come and take this case. So maybe that's something we could come up with. Out-of-state attorneys that don't have that, don't want to be blackballed. We'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a small club that nobody wants to be out of.
Now, when you came to town and you started working on this, and you went to visit District Attorney Steve Wolfson in his office there, and he told you, Mr. Mintz, this is just such a big case. It's so complicated. It's hundreds of subpoenas and documents, and he couldn't do it, could he?
Well, he was working on a specific case which involved April Parks, and so he was very focused on that. But I don't think much has been done since then. I think, the pressure has gone off of them. I don't know. I can only speculate. I was actually I went to go see the FBI afterwards, and I did a screening of the film at the J. Edgar Hoover building with FBI agents from different departments. And again, that was years ago. That was now 2 years ago. And I've heard nothing. Obviously, I mean, it's not their prerogative to tell me what's going on, but I just think that it's just too big. It's too big right now, and it just needs more pressure from, our side of things, more pressure from the media, more pressure from the public, more pressure from advocates. I'm trying to do other stuff right now and just organize other organizations and to, build think tanks around how to look into this.
Your film ends with the arrest of April Parks and some of her people in her office there, but it was pretty much isolated to that one private guardian company there, right? What's come of her case?
Yeah. Last I heard, she was sentenced to 40 years in prison.
Get out.
Her and her cohorts.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm impressed with that. Okay, but no other arrests, none of these other people named in your film had any kind of repercussions?
No, nothing.
Okay. And you're still getting contacted about cases here in Nevada. It's business as usual.
Yeah, I get contacted all the time by people. The more people that see the film, the more that there's this, growing. And there's a lot of organizations. I do want to say that, for, the best coverage besides Darcy Spears Channel 13, the best coverage of what's going on in Vegas has been from the Vegas Voice, which is actually a publication directed towards seniors in the Vegas area. And the publisher is Dan Roberts, and the one of the top journalists of that paper is Raina Goodman, and the two of them have been unbelievable with giving me information and helping me out with it. And they're featured in the film. They're quite an amazing couple.
And what kind of advice would you give to people who find themselves in this situation? They've lost their mother's disappeared, and suddenly they find out some guardian came and took her and has all the bank accounts?
I would say the first thing is be calm and, be calm and don't go after who you think it is. I don't even have an answer for that. I know people who would give better answers, but I would say, reach out to the media. I wish I had a better answer. Watch the film first and foremost, so you know what you're up against. Because a lot of the times before the film, it would people who get caught up in the system and be freaking out because you're traumatized. Your family members are missing, and you're going after the people, and you're trying to go to the family court, but you don't know that they're actually in on it. I would. The bleak part of me says, man, it's too late. It's already too late. The first thing they try to do is separate the families. So I would meet with your family and get organized, because they're going after the same money that it's supposed to be coming to you. And this is basically what it is the sequestering of the funds for the natural crossover from parents to children, and they're getting in the middle of that, and they're going to try to split you guys up and try to, make mess. Families are already dysfunctional enough, and that's why this is the perfect crime, because they're working on people that are already messed up with their histories with each other. Get organized. That's what you got to do, is get organized and have a strategy and record everything.
Yeah, that is really terrifying the way you describe that, because when you see these probate situations, the will, the challenging the will, I get these cases all the time. We're looking for hidden bank accounts and stuff. And you're right, man. Family members that loved each other around a funeral, they're all at war. They're at war, even the best families. And so now here you got this government getting into the act as well, too. Now, have you ever seen a situation where these guardianships can get a restraining order against family members from having contact with their loved ones?
Yeah, of course. That happens a lot. I actually want to bounce back to what you said about government. Now, when government is a word, it's like one of those key words that people are like, oh, this is crazy, it's a conspiracy. But all the government is people like you and I who have run for office. They are just individuals. So when we say government, we're not talking about the entity of the government. There's not some greater conspiracy outside of the fact that these are individuals who are conspiring with each other. So it's individuals of the government that are appointed officials or elected officials. So I think that's really important to clarify that, yes, they are people who work for the government, but there is always accountability. It's just how do you get this information to people up the chain, and how far up does it go? So I just wanted to speak to that when we talk about government, these are just corrupt individuals who happen to have government, who luckily for their own situation have government positions and are able to do what they do because of their power. There's an interesting survey that goes out every year from Chapman University about what are the things Americans are most fearful of. And outside of all of the things you would think of, like earthquakes or war, etc., it's the biggest fear in America is of corrupt government officials utilizing their power over individual freedom.
Yeah, anybody. anybody here in Nevada, Clark County, knows what goes on down there. And we're not talking, like you said, we're not talking about FEMA camps or Agenda 21 or anything. We're not talking about anything government. We're talking about, like you said, guys that were lawyers, hack lawyers who get elected to judges in this town for their campaign budget's not that much. And then they sit up there like a king, and they can appoint these custody evaluators to their friends, these assets, these forensic accounting to their friends, these huge contracts that they appoint to the same people over and over and over again. Like I'm sure you saw it there in guardianship court, the same doctors and the same lawyers over and over.
Yeah. Definitely. It's very intricate. I've heard of stories of bribes happening on casino boats.
Yeah.
So it's offshore. Also, the signs, people who own the signs for re-election, that the people who are in on the system get the signs in the good places. I mean, there's a lot to look into. And another thing, what you had said about these like other larger conspiracies, those, I believe that it's almost like those are like the misinformation conspiracies of stuff like, Area 51, et cetera, that they're so ridiculous that when we talk about something like this, that sounds so ridiculous, we put it in the same box as like the utmost ridiculous. And so, they use these conspiracy theories that are ridiculous conspiracy theories as almost cloaks to do something that is completely unbelievable.
I totally agree.
And, yeah.
And again, too, if someone were to call me up and say, "Hey, Ed, man, the family court's stealing all my money. They kidnapped my mother and they put her in a," you'd say, okay, I got to go. You know what I mean? But you're right.
Yeah.
The first thing people should do when this happens to them is watch your film. Cause you'll get a really well documented education on what's going on. They names, and you see the results. People did get arrested. People were convicted. People were prosecuted. And they're serving time. Thank God for that.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's not a theory.
Yeah.
It's if anybody, the problem is people don't have the time. We're so busy in our lives. We don't even have the time for our parents, let alone to look up records of past guardian abuses and try to follow the trail of money. Like, who's got the time to do something like that? And that's why this is going on, because we are a disenfranchised society. That we're so, and this is not a negative thing on the thing. It's just we need to survive. We're just so bent on survival that we don't no longer take care of our elderly, and we don't take care of our children anymore either. We just ship our children off to school, etc., because we got to survive. We got to live. And so you're going to have this parasitical culture that feeds off of these vulnerabilities that we have, that we created in this capitalistic society. And I'm not an anti-capitalist. I don't mean to say that. I just mean that we're in the infancy stages of trying to figure out how to actually do society properly. And until we get it right, there's going to be parasites that feed off of our misgivings, and that's what's happening. And these parasites have become like severe tapeworms.
Yeah, and the system, they're doing it all day long to 20, 30 people a day. You and me, we're getting divorced. We're walking into family court to get custody of our kids. It's a one-time thing. First time we're doing it, so you walk right into it, and they see you walking right in. They size you up, how much money you got, and this is what we're going to take from you. We know both the lawyers on both sides. We're all friends. We're going to send you to the right custody evaluator, and $30,000 to these guys, and then you see them. Their name shows up case after case after case, over and over. Same thing with this elder abuse thing. This guardianship. This is a one-time. This is going to happen 4 or 5 times in my life that my parents get stolen from me. It's happened to me once, and I'm walking into a blind. Yep. And like you said, there's no lawyer I can go to. Is there a lawyer here in Vegas I can refer somebody to in this case?
I can't, because I didn't. I would. They would have been in my film had I been able to find one. Right. But I don't think until this date anybody has sort of shown up to do it. It's too powerful of a system. It's too dangerous. It's people just. Why would you want to? Why would you want to? Unless you're insane and crazy like myself, why would you want to take on such a large organized entity? You got to have. You have to have nothing to lose.
Yeah,
and a lot of people don't have nothing to lose. A lot of people have families and they don't want to get involved.
I was a little nervous doing this show because they could knock on my door right now and say, Ed, you're mentally incompetent. We're taking you in. And half the people couldn't find me who were looking for me. The professionals I know that are in the business of finding people couldn't find me. Now, have you received any kind of threats or ramifications going after you?
I can't say I have. I've definitely had some ramifications psychologically. I'm always locking my doors, etc. But that's just general paranoia. I can't say anything has, but I haven't really made a dent. I mean, I made a film that was very insightful, but I think they're banking on the fact that the victims and advocates of this insane crime are not organized enough. They can't even promote the film. I mean, they have this amazing film that can completely get in everybody's household, but they can't even organize themselves to do that. So I think right now the bad guys they're sitting pretty. They know they got nothing to worry about. So I think I'm the least of their worries. Nobody's even watching the movie. So.
Well, it's a great film, man. People should watch the movie. I encourage people to go out and watch The Guardian, Amazon Prime. Leave a comment. Billy Mintz.
I will say this.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you got a minute.
Yeah, we do.
I think I've studied, extensively psychology, and there's this part of us that wants to suffer.
Right.
Individually, we choose partners that unconsciously we know will bring suffering to us. We have interactions with our children that unconsciously we know will bite us in the butt in the future. And that's just the way human psychology and the psyche is built, is to the unconscious. We make decisions in our life that create suffering in our life. This is unconsciously. We love to suffer. And this is just a larger epidemic of our psyche, is that not only do we like to get unconsciously, we like to get into these type of predicaments, and we're not going to solve it until we want to heal. And until we want to heal, this stuff is going to happen. So, I mean, it's just the symptom of the way we treat others and ourselves. This is the symptom.
I know exactly what you're trying to say, man. I really appreciate it. Billy Mintz, I got a lot of respect for your work, man. Anything you do in the future, you want to come and promote it, man, just give me a call, put you right on the air.
I appreciate it, Ed. Thanks. It's good to have a new ally.
Thank you.
I'm excited to talk in the future.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, good night.
Oh, boy. So they got Billy Mintz, BillyMintz.com. It's spelled BILLIEMINTZ. The film is The Guardians. And like I said, it's free on Amazon Prime, okay? And it's a terrifying film. It's the film illustrates people going through trauma. And you can feel it. You can watch them. You can watch their suffer. I don't think I do this interview justice in really describing what this situation's like and what it's like here in that Clark County Family Court nightmare that we've all been through. Anybody who lives here in Nevada knows what the hell goes on down there in the corruption. Thank you so much, Billy Mintz, BillyMintz.com.